Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaykum, dear listeners. How are you? This is Ramadan day 7. I hope this first week of fasting has been uplifting for you and you've started to reorientate away from the relentless pressures of modern existence under advanced capitalism and towards replenishing our souls and hearts. I'm sure some of you would have noticed I'm sitting in a different location today, same area, but I'm sitting in the woods next to a gently bubbling stream and enjoying this lovely music in nature. I hope you enjoy this too. Today I will discuss a powerful and empowering verse in the Quran that has played a critical role in my connection with Allah and my sense of self as a worthy believer. For far too long, us Muslim women have endured what I consider to be an insulting and demeaning set of interpretations about women. We have internalized these messages over centuries, and many of us glorify the diminishing of our beings and our faith. Many of us willingly accept that Allah has created women as intellectually lacking, second-tier believers with poor capacity for leadership and spirituality. Many scholars gave Islamic sanction to what were the opinions and attitudes of the people of ignorance, the pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah. Unfortunately and sadly, there are some famous female scholars who act as mouthpieces of the patriarchs and give legitimacy to the diminishing of the female believer. Against this systematic and systemic demeaning of Muslim women stands a verse in Surah Al-Ahzab, a bulwark against patriarchy. In a single sentence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pulls out the oxygen from ideas and ideologies developed by entitled men who talk about women as if they are passive objects. In my recent talk about women's pain in the Quran, I noted how Allah tells believers to reverence the wombs that bore them. And yet, in the almost exclusively male communities of interpretation that we have seen historically, the womb is commodified rather than reverenced. Let me read this verse to you. It's verse 35 of Surah Al-Ahzab, where Allah sets out the standard He will use to forgive and reward people. You can think of it as a marking scheme for a long exam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innal muslimina wal muslimati wal mu'minina wal mu'minati wal qanitina wal qanitati was sadiqina was sadiqati was sabirina was sabirati wal khashi'ina wal khashi'ati wal mutasaddiqina wal mutasaddiqati was sa'imina والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. For Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for men and women who are patient and constant, for men and women who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, for men and women who fast and deny themselves, for men and women who guard their chastity, and for men and women who engage much in Allah's praise. For them has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. Let me point out some key features of this verse. First, Allah takes special care to mention both women and men against every criterion He is going to assess us on. Why does He do that? Because He wants to make sure that He is fully including both men and women. And He's setting that parity between men and women and this equality around accountability. Therefore, He's telling us that men and women are accountable equally to Allah. Second, Allah establishes equality between men and women in terms of their capacity for faith, spirituality, devotion, charity, character, and conduct. And third, all of the criteria are to do with spirituality and conduct, yet our scholars waste time on policing our appearance, how we talk, and if we wear nail polish. Here are the criteria listed in this verse: belief, devoutness to Allah, telling the truth, being patient and steadfast in the face of adversity and trial, being humble and not arrogant, being charitable, observing the fast and abstaining from immoralities, guarding the character by avoiding sexual indecencies, and engaging in the remembrance of Allah. This verse is the most effective rebuttal to any so-called Islamic teachings peddled by the traditional, the orthodox, or the politicized versions of Islam. I want you all to walk with me through this verse. Walk with me. Remind yourself that Allah has created you in the best of molds. I picked this up in my recent episode about Surah Al-Ahzab, that Allah has created us all in the best of molds. Remind yourself that you are a believer. Remind yourself that you stand in devotion to Allah within your ability and capacity. Work towards always telling the truth. Develop patience as active practice. Apologize for your mistakes and be open to learning. If you can't offer monetary charity, then speak a good word and give a warm hug to someone in tears. And finally, abstain from indecencies and extremes of behavior and thought. As you walk with me, you will realize that so many of us already do this. And although us Muslim women are judged and diminished for merely existing, and ridiculed and mocked for existing confidently and claiming our space, we know through this verse that Allah's criteria of judgment are. With that scheme in front of us, we must develop the capacity for internal validation based on these criteria. As a Muslim woman, whenever I find it difficult to breathe in the face of the onslaught of insults and misogyny from scholars taking aim at women's intellect, to those who consider them nothing but genitalia, to those who frame marriage as a form of slavery and submission, to those who indulge in religious blackmail and force women to accept polygamy, to those who use Islam to justify the ugliness and criminality of child marriage. As a Muslim woman, whenever I find it difficult to breathe in the face of these onslaughts, I turn to this verse. I situate myself in it and breathe deeply. I feel a breeze lift my wings. I can take flight again and take to the blue sky. I can think big and think beyond. The key reflection for today is this: be a top-tier believer. Let this verse strengthen you. Let Allah's words nurture your self-worth as a believer and guide you to excellence in conduct and virtue. Assalamu alaykum.